You know, there are stories on this channel that I've covered that really upset me, anger me, and cause me to react emotionally, even though I try to avoid that as best as humanly possible. I'm thinking of horrific crimes or policies that ended up leading to the release of a perpetrator of a horrific crime or a district attorney refusing to charge or whatever. But the thing is, this story in particular really gets under my skin almost as much as anything I've ever covered on this channel, because one of the basics of society, one of the basics of a community is that you respect, at least superficially, the lives of others, and specifically the lives of children. However, a town in Ohio outside of Cleveland called Elucid, I don't know how it's pronounced, nor do I care, recently had a local news segment done about them because they installed a heart monitor, or a heart defibrillator, my apologies for getting that wrong, behind a locked case because people keep stealing them. So at a playground, if your kid goes into cardiac arrest, they need an emergency defibrillator. They have that defibrillator present, but you have to call 911 and get a code because it's being stolen so many different times. We're going to get into this story. I'm going to explain why this pisses me off. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to my podcast listeners on Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
A local park now has a new AED available in case of a heart emergency. There's just one issue. It's locked, and you need to call 911 to access it. So would you feel comfortable if help was behind a code? Stephen Hernandez went digging for answers why this life-saving equipment is locked up.
I mean, we all know the answer of why this thing is locked up behind glass, why they have to go to the step of calling 911 in order to get the code. We all get it. We all know where this story is going. But again, it's important to interview the people on the ground so that they can react to what has to be done in order to keep their community safe.
That's just like calling 911 because they get the passcode for your fire extinguisher.
So I just want to say, this guy right here, I 100% agree with him. I have no disagreements with what he said in terms of principle. It is quite similar to having a lock on a fire extinguisher because, again, when seconds count, you need access to this. The idea that you would have to call 911 for a passcode in that situation is just as absurd as in this situation, but the problem is not him and his attitude and this opinion and how factually accurate it is in terms of a normal day-to-day scenario. The problem is that the community that he is in does not act normally. They do not care for one another, and they cannot be treated like a normal standard community.
If it can be done within seconds, then I think it's okay.
Now, this woman says, well, in the hope that you can get through it really quickly, that would be good. That would be something that is preferable and all of that. And I can understand that, but she is missing the overall point, which is, why is this necessary in this park? Why is it necessary that if a kid has a heart attack at this park or some kind of cardiac event, that you have to call 911 in order to get this box open, in order to save that child's life on the spot?
Bexley Park has a new automated external defibrillator, or an AED. It's used to help people experiencing a cardiac arrest. But this one is locked in this box, and you need a passcode to access it. South Euclid Fire Chief David Sire tells me it's about preventing a theft.
The AEDs are about $1,800 a piece. We want them to be secure, but also accessible.
So there you have it from the head of the fire department himself, the chief. The AEDs actually end up costing on the market $1,800. So some criminal, some joke of a person, some utter scumbag is going around stealing these things in order to pocket less than $2,000. And remember, that is the price of it new. I'm assuming if you're buying this on eBay or on whatever market or secondhand on the street, you're probably going to pay a lot less money for this. And if you're trying to sell this in an illegitimate way, you're probably trying to sell this for under market price, so maybe we can price this in and around the $1,000. So imagine for a moment, your child, you're at a park, you're playing, something goes wrong, something tragic, something horrible, and you need to get a defibrillator. You run over to the box, you go to open it, and what ends up happening? It's gone. It's not there. Why? Because some thug, some scumbag, somebody with so little care for the lives of children in your community ended up taking it in order to make a quick buck. We're often told by the left wing, we're often told by left-wing online figures that the criminals are Aladdin, that we should think about the desperation of somebody who would steal a defibrillator for a quick $1,000. But the thing is, I don't give a damn about that person. I don't give a damn about you theoretically being in need, you wanting to get some food, you wanting to stay in a motel, or whatever your personal imminent want actually is. We have government programs that provide food to people. We have government programs that provide housing. You can go to a church. There are many other options besides taking life-saving treatment from children to the point where you have to lock the damn thing up, to the point where a child could end up dying because a panicked mother or father can't get the code fast enough from the 911 dispatcher. This is something that is created solely by the criminal. This is something that is created by a system that does not prosecute criminals easily. If you steal a defibrillator, if you steal something like this out of a park, I think you should get 5 years minimum, because you could result in the death of a child, and you need to know immediately, the second that you approach this box for any illegitimate reason, that we are going to throw you behind bars, because this is an absolute violation. And if you're in a community where people were doing this, if you're in a community where people are deciding to steal this for their own personal profit, you need to shame these people. We need to publish their faces in the paper so the whole world can see what kind of scumbag would deprive a child life-saving treatment for a quick buck, for a quick fix. I know a lot of these people might be addicts, they might be in desperation, but you know what? Root causes are not any more important than any other cause. The idea that we can't have medical treatment available to kids in case of an emergency until we address the underlying issue of addiction or homelessness or poverty is an absurd notion. We need to go after this problem head first, and I don't agree with this solution, but I understand why they have to do this.
The fire department explains that in order to use the device, you have to dial 911. The dispatcher will then pass along a code to unlock the cabinet.
The alert will come up on their screen, and they'll be able to give the whoever calls the code to be able to get them out.
I mean, again, just think about what you have to do in order to save a child's life or anybody's life at this park. You have to make sure that when you run over to this device, you have your phone in hand, because you have to dial 911 in order to get this unlocked. There may be a call button on it, I'm not exactly sure, but these are the steps that you have to take in a society that has absolutely no care for itself. This reminds me of something that I remembered from Coming Apart, which is the book written by Charles Murray, who is, of course, a controversial author, largely due to the fact that the left wing absolutely hates him. But in that book, they talked about how kids used to drink at the park all the time way back in the day. But the difference between your modern kids and your past kids is that your past kids would drink up, they would take their bottles or leave them whole on the park and then just go. Sure, it's littering, sure, it's not a good thing, sure, it's underage drinking, and sure, we should be against that. However, the modern kids, for whatever reason, decide that they want to smash bottles on the park to make it unusable for children. To me, this is the smashing bottles effect of criminality in our society. People are stealing life-saving treatment out of a park. I mean, imagine the mindset that you have to be in to think that that $1,000 is worth potentially a kid in your community dying over it. They put these things in here to give people a chance, a little bit of hope that their kid can make it in case of an emergency situation, and it's being ripped away. Potentially their lives are being ripped away by some scumbag that prefers their own personal instant gratification over the lives of the children of the community that they reside in.
AED thefts have happened before, such as this one back in April in Portage County.
Now, as you can see, based on that previous Facebook post, this has happened before. They have stolen these in a neighboring county, and right now what they're trying to do is install these in a bunch of different parks so parents can have a chance. But the thing is, when you notice that they're already being stolen from other areas, you have to respond in kind. And again, I will go to what is in the mindset of the criminal in this situation, and if this is somebody we should be feeling sympathy for. If you try to steal something because you're personally in need and other people rely on that potentially to save their lives, I'm not going to be sympathetic to your personal need. You're essentially subordinating the lives of children to your personal desires, and it's unforgivable. It's absolutely disgusting. And again, I talk about this, and I said it before, it's for a small amount of money. It might mean something to the desperate poor Aladdin, who supposedly is going to use that defibrillator to feed the starving orphans in the area, but the thing is, those starving orphans, if they have a cardiac event, aren't going to be alive anyway because of this amazing and stunning and brave Aladdin who ripped this thing off. It's absolutely devastating, and I think of those horror stories related to Little League, which, by the way, I used to play Little League when I was a kid, where a ball comes back through the box, hits the kid in the chest, and if there were a defibrillator there, then that child could have survived. You know, one of those in-between heartbeats kind of situations, freak accidents, they happen every so often, and one of these machines could have saved that person. Now, a lot of coaches smartly will bring one of those machines to their Little League games so they have one on hand, but what about the kids that have the accidents on the field and don't? What about the coach that blitzes over, or the umpire, or whatever during the course of a Little League game in order to get this out of the box, doesn't have the phone, can't call 911, or during the process where everything works perfectly, they call 911, they get the machine out, they go over to the kid, and it's just too late. Too much time has passed, and that kid has passed away. This is what crime has done to this community. This is what it has done to the parents in this park. It has condemned them to a more risky park experience, all because we don't go after the criminal, all because we're too sympathetic to the criminal, all because we think about the personal struggles that would lead somebody to steal this life-saving piece of equipment rather than the people who are possibly dependent on that life-saving piece of equipment.
I also spoke to a lot of people who shared thoughts, but they didn't want to be on camera, like one woman who said she'd rather see this unlocked because in a cardiac emergency, seconds matter. Chief Sire telling me he believes that time is minimal.
So I don't think the time, it takes to call and be able to get this code, it's better than not having one available at all.
Listen, unfortunately, I'm going to have to side with the fire chief in this regard because it is better to have a seconds or even a minute-long delay in trying to get this defibrillator than it not be there present in the first place. And I think about the fact that most firefighters in this country, something like 77%, are actually volunteer firefighters. So they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're trying to support their community. They're providing key EMS services in areas where they don't have sophisticated hospital-led ambulance operations. And for him to look at the character of his people, the character of the community that he chose to serve, that he chose to risk his life for, and make this cold-blooded assessment and be 100% right about it, feels like it must be a hard pill to swallow. It would be difficult for me to genuinely look at the character of the people that I'm dealing with and determine that they're just insufficient. They're not responsible as a people, as a population, as a town, as a community, and I would have to take this basic step in order to try to save their lives. You're quite literally trying to protect these people from themselves. In reality, you're protecting them from the bad actors in their community, but this is all a reflection on the fact that criminals are running wild in this country. Theft is totally out of control. Selling products like this on the secondary market is something that has become more and more possible and more lucrative. And we don't have the institutions in place in order to condemn them. On top of that, we don't have the moral authority. There's no perceived moral authority to tell people to stop this. I always talk about this pyramid of law-abidingness, how at the bottom is law enforcement and consequences. And the reason why that's the least likely deterrent for criminality is because a lot of people think that they won't get caught. Well, that's removed in a lot of places. The next notch up on that pyramid is the community, is the fact that you will be shown to be an outcast if you commit these crimes, if you do these heinous actions. Well, guess what? We're pushing for more sympathy from the criminal. We're pushing to see it from their perspective. We're pushing for the police to be villainized, the court system and all of that. So that pillar is knocked out of the pyramid as well. And then at the top of the pyramid is this idea that you won't violate the law if you believe the law is just, if you believe that it's moral. Well, guess what? We have a society that tells us that laws and protecting property and all of that, that's white supremacy, that's evil white racism, and it doesn't consider the people and, oh my god, the moral gumption that it takes to say, wow, these criminals, these Aladdins, they're actually good people put in horrible circumstances, is taking precedent over that. But let's be clear. You should face serious criminal consequences for stealing this. You should be outcast from society for acting in this way, and you are wholly immoral no matter your excuse. You're disgusting as a person if you try to do so, and the proof in the pudding is in the taste, and unfortunately, the taste is behind glass, so you're gonna have to call 911 in order to get a code to figure out what's up with that pudding. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute disaster going on in Ohio. Till next time.